Hey, welcome to this radio video, and today we're going to check our solar activity. This is the solar activity and propagation report number 4, and we are July 3rd, 2014. So last week in our propagation report we had pretty much quiet conditions. Solar flux was just below 100 at about 95. These conditions kind of prevailed through the weekend, but solar flux has steadily increased thanks to a flurry of sunspots that appeared. And here you can see the different sunspots. I will do a little animation here and you'll see that lots of these sunspots have turned our way. The sun was actually getting pretty quiet last week, but now we are increasing activity. Lots of sunspots have been rotating to our side. Most of these sunspots are actually old sunspots that gave us some higher activity last month, and these sunspots rotated all the way back for another pass, which is not unusual, but it gives you an idea of how strong these sunspots or these magnetic fields here are strong, because not every sunspot will actually rotate across the solar surface and come back a month later. So there's a lot of these that actually harbor some energy for M and who knows, maybe an X flare, which are very strong flares, but until now they've been quiet. One of the great advantage of these sunspots is that solar flux steadily increased. And if we look at this morning, solar indices were at 169 solar flux. Last week we had a solar flux of about 95, 98. So it really increased a lot, and it does help propagation. K index this morning is at 3, and this is at 1200 UT, so it shows you that magnetic field is a little bit unsettled, but I don't expect big magnetic storms or anything, and I wouldn't be surprised that actually today the K index will kind of go down back to 2 or 1. But propagation isn't too bad. I've listened this morning before this report to 15 megahertz and up, and checked for some signals. Lots of Asian signals, and KBS World Radio coming in on 15575. Not as strong as I usually get it, but quite good. At this time, as I am actually now making this video, I'm actually looking at the S meter, and the KBS World Radio at 1340 UTC is a solid S7, S8, which is not bad at all. So it gives you an idea that propagation is still good, even though the K index is a little high. So what do we expect from all these sunspots? Well, that's the question. Solar propagation, solar activity is kind of hard to really understand when and how something is going to happen on the sun. For now, we know that the solar activity is a little higher, but it's still low because the sun didn't flare or anything. If you look at the sun right now, you can see that this is pretty much what it looks like. It is peppered with lots of sunspots. Group 2104, 2107, and 2109 here are actually pretty big, and these are the ones that could actually flare. Even 2106 here is a big group here. If we look at flare possibilities, here you see on the right side they give you flare possibilities. 2104 that we see right here is actually the one that has the highest possibility right now of solar flare. 70% for a C flare, 20% for an M, and 5% for an X. So these are really probabilities. The problem with probabilities is that a lot of the time when we expect an X flare or an M flare, it often doesn't do anything. That's where we are kind of a little behind in our knowledge of the sun. We cannot really predict if any flares. These flares could happen. There could be a lot. There could be, even though some of the probabilities here are like at 1% or 5%. One of the thing is, you can have an X flare. Maybe you can have 4 or 5 of them, and you just didn't expect it. It's pretty interesting when you look at that. So don't take this for cash, because we never know actually how we are going to get this solar activity. But more sunspots equals higher solar flux, and that is what's most important for us. If there should be a solar flare, this is what could change propagation in the coming days. So for now, things are quiet, and so we expect, if no major flares happen today, Thursday, or tomorrow, Friday, I think this weekend is going to be a great weekend for propagation conditions. Solar flux will be higher. It will actually be a great weekend if you want to listen to shortwave, especially on the higher frequencies. If there should be a solar flare, that's when things change, because the solar flare will push out probably a coronal mass ejection, a cloud of little electrical charge particles that are going to hit Earth a few days later, and that could give unsettled conditions. So maybe you should actually check regularly on these websites. Make sure that you have the latest news. Space Weather is the best if you want to have easy to understand news, because they are, for example, now they are saying chances of flares, 50% of an M-class flare today. And if there are flares, what's nice is they will tell you M flare, X flare, whatsoever. So check this page, spaceweather.com. Check for the possibility of flares. If there haven't been, or if you haven't seen any flares in the coming day or two, then propagation should be good. If you see flares, then there will be possibility of unsettled geomagnetic activity next week. So that's something you'll have to check for. So today, propagation is good, and the past week propagation has been quite good. Actually, I've listened to shortwave a little less than usual. We had a lot of activities here. I've had went out of town, and also had lots of little things. I also worked. So all of that together made what also was really hot here. We had some kind of little heat wave. Temperatures, rising above 30 degrees every day. So it's kind of the time where you don't spend a lot of time indoors on the radio. But the days that I did listen to, propagation was actually quite good. The steadily increasing solar flux did improve propagation as the week was going on. Today it does seem nice. Let's make sure that that little K index doesn't go higher than 3. So you can check that on the dx.qsl.net website, and click on propagation and check these indices. K below 3 is good, so we want to keep that. Solar flux 169. I expect the solar flux to probably go a little higher. If we look at the predictions here, they are predicting solar flux reaching 180 in the coming days. For your US guys out there that will have 4th of July tomorrow, I think that's pretty nice. Well, you'll have a higher solar flux, and maybe you'll have a solar flare. That will be your celestial firework for the 4th of July. If we look here, there was a 1M flare yesterday, not yesterday, the 1st of July, which was Tuesday, but nothing really serious. And if we look at the little chart here, this chart is kind of a little difficult to understand, but one thing that you can check for is just to make sure, just look at the graph, and when you see that, for example, here at the beginning, July 1st, you see that the peaks are higher. So it gives you an idea that something's happening, even if you don't understand the graph itself. Just seeing that there's peaks going much higher suddenly tells you that something's happening. It's a great indication that there's a solar flare, for example. And this graph is updated, I believe, every 15 minutes or something like that. It's updated quite often. You see, it says here it's updated 1335, and we're at 1350 UTC. So it's something like every 15 minutes there's an update on this graphic. So if you see big peaks going very high, like we have here at the beginning. Whoops, sorry. Here I clicked on the chart. So here it goes on the beginning here, and you'll see that something's happening. This is probably the M flare that we had on July 1st. So I expect good conditions. If there should be a solar flare in the coming days, then we might have some unsettled conditions, even geomagnetic storming. Usually if you see a solar flare, there will be blackouts, so blackouts are possible. For those that don't know what a blackout is, when a solar flare actually erupts on the sun, the side of the sun that is sunlit, so if you're in the daytime, if the sun is up at your location, usually when there's a solar flare, there will be a shortwave fade out blackout that is temporary. Why? Because when there's a solar flare, the first particles that reach Earth 8 minutes later actually will decrease the ionization of the ionosphere. So you'll see that your signals will fade out suddenly. And usually when this happens, it comes back slowly. After 15 minutes to half an hour, you see your signals slowly coming back. And the longer the fade out, the bigger the flare usually. So if you have, for example, an X flare, which is an extreme event, then you might have a fade out that lasts more than up to an hour before things get back to normal. That's the first part of what's happening when there's a solar flare. The second part of what's happening when there's a solar flare is the fact that you get also a coronal mass ejection. So there's this cloud of little particles that moves away from the sun. Usually the stronger the flare, the faster the cloud. But it still takes from anywhere from about a day and a half to 2 days, 3 days sometimes, before the cloud of particles actually reaches Earth from the sun. But when it does, it usually will unsettle our geomagnetic field around Earth, and this is what causes the aurora borealis, and also decreased propagation on shortwave, because a lot of the times when we have geomagnetic storms, shortwave signals tend to be much weaker than usual, and especially for signals that cross the poles. For example, the reason I'm using KBS World Radio 15575 as a beacon for propagation is because the signal from South Korea has to cross the North Pole to come all the way through Canada here where I am. So what happens is, since when there are magnetic storms, or there's some geomagnetic activity, the poles are affected first. It means that if there is, for example, a geomagnetic storm, it means that the particles are actually streaming much more towards the poles because of the Earth's magnetic field. And usually KBS World Radio will be either not there or very weak, depending on what's happening. So expect good conditions. If there should be solar flares in the coming days, then we will have unsettled conditions, probably as soon as this weekend or next week. It all depends if the sun actually flares or not. And so take a peek at the website spaceweather.com. This is probably where you'll get the latest and the best news. one of the good news sites also is, of course, solarham.net. This website updates quite regularly, so you get events as they come. For example, here's solar update at 12:50 UTC today. You also see that there is that K that is at 3, meaning that there's unsettled conditions. It tells you at 3:10 UTC there's a weak shock passage. So it tells you that this is probably what made the geomagnetic field around Earth a little unsettled. So this one has a lot of updated news. If there's a X flare, an M flare, or whatever, you'll have updated news right here. If there should be an extreme event like an X flare, I will of course make a special video just for that. But for now, things are pretty quiet. Geomagnetic storm is not predicted at this time, but because of the high probability of flares, there could be. So hopefully you enjoyed this little propagation and solar weather report. What you need to know is we have increased propagation conditions, great signals. As I am talking now, this video, just through this video, I see that the KBS World Radio signal jumped from about S7 to an S9, sometimes reaching even S9 plus 10 dB. So it even is better, so it probably means that conditions are actually improving at this time. And for the next week, we should have great conditions. If there should be a solar flare, then there will be 1 or 2 days of unsettled activity. But for now, things look quiet, but there is a big chance. We are at 50% chance of an M flare, so it means that there is a pretty good chance of some solar flaring. But like I said, it's not always the case, even though I've seen, prediction of 90% flares and actually no flares at all. So just use this data cautiously and check from time to time to make sure that to check what's happening and make sure that everything's cool. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy these reports. I've been having some really great feedback on these reports, and so thank you very much. And this is the solar activity and propagation report number 4 for July 3rd, 2014. See you next week with another propagation report.